Okay, and now I'm going to share my screen because I've got a little PowerPoint tonight to kind of help us through our discussion. So, um, all right, here's our agenda for tonight. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping. This week we have a discussion, a quiz, and a research paper due this weekend. So you all chose your topics a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully you're on track with that. If you're looking for resources, make sure that you go to the TSU library database. You can have a lot of access there to journal articles and other resources. So make sure that you're accessing all of that. If you need help, the librarians there are awesome, and they will they'll assist you in any way needed. Hopefully this is not the first class that you've done any research in, but if it is, don't worry about it. Like I say, the librarians will help you out finding resources. Look online for your APA, your American Psychological Association standards for noting your sources, and use that style for noting your sources and your references, and you'll be in good shape. I don't want a massive research paper here, just enough to kind of get your toes wet in the subject area that you find of interest. And you've got all those guidelines on your assignment tab. And so look for that. And if you've got extra questions that go beyond that, feel free to contact me and I'll try to help you through that. But make sure that you use your library resources if you need to. And hi, Angela. Nice to see you tonight.
Hey, good to see you too.
Our next big assignment is our last big assignment. Next week, we just have a regular activity. We have our discussion, our quiz, and a regular activity next week for Unit 7. And then Unit 8 is our final unit. And we have a group assignment that week. And that's our only activity that week. No quiz. Next week is our last quiz. And no discussion. Next week is our last discussion. So that last week, the beginning of August, we just have this group assignment. But I do want you to go ahead and start thinking of who you want to work with. Now, you've had an opportunity through the last number of weeks to get acquainted with one another through this venue weekly in our webinars and through our discussion board. And so hopefully you've kind of got an idea of who you would like to work with. I want you to work with 2 or 3 people in a group. I really don't want anybody to work solo. Once or twice, I've had a person who had to work solo for one reason or another. Maybe they were going out of town and had to do their project by themselves. But it's really a pretty big project, and I don't really want anybody to work by themselves. The point of it is to see how well you can work with one another. And, sometimes we have different styles, and I want to see that you can combine those styles and work together with other people. That's certainly what you are expected to do working in a school district, is to work with a team, whether you're going to be a diagnostician or a consultant of some type, or a specialist or a coordinator or a supervisor, or whatever your next career goal is. You are going to be expected to work with others. And that's certainly an expectation even at the teacher level. You're expected to work with a team of teachers. You're expected to work with a grade level committee, all kinds of opportunities to work with others. And so that's what I want you to do with this. I'm not a huge fan of group work ordinarily, because I think I was always a victim of that myself when I was in school. I always got grouped with the people who didn't want to do the group work. And so I ended up doing the bulk of the group work myself. But hopefully at the master's level, we don't have that problem a lot. Hopefully everybody is intrinsically motivated and wants to do a good job, not only for the group, but for themselves as well. And so what you'll do for this assignment is to work with 2 or 3 peers to design or enhance a comprehensive program aimed at supporting a specific aspect of service delivery for students with developmental disabilities in a make-believe school district, perhaps, or maybe you've got an idea of something that your school district actually needs that you could gear this assignment towards. Develop a half-day in-service training for a campus or district. So maybe you've got something coming up in your home district or on your home campus that this just fits perfectly toward. And so I want you to think in those terms, or maybe you've got to project a little bit toward a situation or a scenario that you don't actually know about, but you can imagine perhaps. We've all sat through mind-numbing in-service at the beginning of the year. Raise your hand if you've sat through that. We have, haven't we? And we've all thought this could be so much better. This could be so much more applicable if only the people who were running this thing would do so and so. And so maybe you can use those ideas that you've thought before and apply them to this assignment. Okay, here's what teachers really need. The teachers who are teaching this population actually could use this, or maybe the paraprofessionals who are working with this population need this type of training. So form yourselves into small groups. Now, I'm not going to force you into small groups unless 1 or 2 people just naturally get left out, and then I'll put them into a group. But I want you to form yourselves into those groups, and then let me know in the next few days, maybe by Monday or Tuesday at the latest of next week, you need to have your group. And then choose a topic and assign roles to everybody in the group. And then you don't have to let me know everybody's assignment, but just let me know who all's in a group, and then let me know your topic. Let me know your group by early in the week, and then you can let me know your topic a little later in the week, because that may take a few days to have a time to get together and talk and assign roles and what you want to do with that. It will be due the following week on Wednesday, the 4th. And I think that will give me enough time to grade them before the end of the semester. I need to double check and make sure exactly when grades are due for the end of the semester, but I think that's about right. If I have more time, I'll give you more days, but I'll double check that and see. I think that's about right, and that's 2 weeks from today. So get your wheels turning about what you want to do with that assignment, who you want to work with, some things like that, and go ahead and and begin thinking in those terms and choosing your groups. So let's switch gears then a little bit and talk about peer relationships among our students and how we can help foster peer relationships. Some of your videos that you watched this week have to do with those buddy relationships and fostering those kinds of things amongst our students who have more significant disabilities. Sometimes making friends is one of the most difficult things for students with more significant disabilities. It doesn't come very naturally. And so sometimes that's one of the best things that we as educators can do for students with some more significant disabilities is to help those bonds to form. So some of you may have seen or worked with systems in school districts that foster those relationships between general ed and special education, buddy programs that work really well between general and special ed. When I was working in the mid cities, between Dallas and Fort Worth at Hurst Euless Bedford ISD, we had a great program like that at Trinity High School. And students just clamored to get into the general ed side of the program that was a buddy program between general ed and special ed to work with our students who had the most significant needs who were assigned to Trinity High School. It was a wonderful program, and some of those relationships lasted beyond high school graduation because the students became very attached to the ones that they worked with who were in special education, who had those more significant disabilities. We had a hard time deciding who could be in that class because we never had enough spots for everybody that wanted to sign up for enrollment in that program. But we can't just limit those relationships to non-disabled and disabled individuals so that we're pairing non-disabled and disabled. What about disabled with disabled? What about pairing and fostering those kinds of relationships? What do you think about that? Any feelings or thoughts about trying to foster friendship or relationship between disabled to disabled peers?
I know for me, I had these two students who both were in fourth grade and they're in fifth grade now. And recently they both got put inside of a functional life skills type of classroom. So they'll be classmates. I called them the old married couple because they kind of argued and bickered. He'd do something, she'd be like, go sit down, stop doing that. And so they're both disabled. They both have ID. So it's fostering that relationship where now, even though they're in a different setting, they already know each other and they can bond.
I think that's a great example, Natina. Some of those are the very best relationships because they have similar experiences, and sometimes they can communicate on a very common level. So I love to see friendship and relationship being built between students with disabilities. And I think it's great when it's between disabled and non-disabled, but sometimes there's not enough shared experience. And so when we can see bonds being built between students with disabilities, I find those to be some of the most beautiful relationships that we have out there when disabled peers find a way to communicate and attach themselves to one another. Those are really cool. We have a ministry at my church for individuals with disabilities. And there are a couple of young people in that program that are really attached to one another. And I find the same kind of gratification in that I think you're talking about. When those young people are really, truly friends with one another. So how do you think we foster that? How can we help with those kinds of relationships? Any ideas?
I know one way, like for me, we had several students I've had several students through the years that were like in gen ed, then they had inclusion support or pull out support. And it just kind of, especially when they're young, it really happens pretty naturally. There's always a little mother hen in gen ed, or there's a boy that just has a kind heart and will just kind of attach themselves to those students and make sure that they're okay and kind of, point out when they need to do something. I've always seen that. And so I always just notice who those kids are and make sure and give them like specific compliments, like, oh, I really like the way you helped him with that, or, like made sure to just kind of on the side quietly away from everyone else, tell him how much I appreciate it, or let him go choose out of my prize box, things like that. But it really does seem to kind of happen naturally, especially when they're young.
I think you're exactly right there, Michelle. And I saw that in my own child. We had Meredith with us a few weeks ago as our guest, and she was that mother hen that you're talking about. She wanted, those little girls are just kind of busybodies usually, and she was that kind of busybody. She wanted to mother everyone, and I think maybe it was because she was a big sister to two little brothers, and she wanted to be that mothering big sister when she was at school too. And there was a boy in her class who had disabilities, and she wanted to help, always to be the helper. And that just came out of her very naturally, and the teacher rewarded it. She placed Meredith near Jared, and so Meredith got to help Jared, and then Meredith helped Jared the next year. She was in his class the next year, and again the next year. And I think that was part of the reason that Meredith decided she wanted to be a special education teacher, was because she had these early opportunities to be a helper and an assistant and a friend to sort of the disenfranchised, the child who didn't have a lot of other friends, and who had apparent disabilities that needed assistance and needed help on an assignment and those kind of things. And she was more than happy to read the directions to him and show him how to get started and all of those kind of things, and to be the one to play with him on the playground when nobody else would, and to tie his shoes when he couldn't, all of those kinds of things. And so, just like Michelle said, I think there are always those children, and I think more often than not, they're girls. And occasionally there's a little boy, but usually it's a little girl. And I think it does happen most frequently when they're younger. And so if we can really reward those demonstrations of helping early on, then I think that those kinds of relationships do grow. Our next question here: should we teach academics or functional skills? Our book talks about this some. And then we talk about it a little bit more in our videos too. What do you think about academics versus functional skills, or does it need to be academics versus, or can it be a marriage of both with our more significant populations? Any feelings about this?
I think it needs to be both. I think a lot of times you say, oh, the student is intellectually disabled, and you think about what they can't do. And so they don't get pushed as far as they can go. So I feel like they need to be pushed as far as they possibly can go, and just keep pushing. We can have them until they're, I think, 21. Just push and see how far they can go.
Right. And actually we can have them until they're 22, that year that they're 22, and through the end of that academic year. And so absolutely, I think give as much academic support as we can for as long as we can, until there just is not any more to give there. And then functional skills alongside that. Everybody needs to read at some level, and everybody needs to be able to calculate at some level. And everybody needs to be able to write at some level. And it's interesting, my husband's teaching summer school this summer. I think I've told you all this. And he was telling me he's teaching 7th grade summer school. And of course, 7th grade summer school consists of the students who have failed 7th grade English. And he said it's absolutely the most frustrating thing he's ever done this year. And he's a special ed teacher, but he's not teaching special ed right now. He's teaching 7th grade English. And the kids that are in the class are not kids who are in special education. They're general ed students. And they had a writing assignment this week. And so he gives them the writing prompt. And he said only 2 students in the entire class put anything on the paper at all. I mean, anything besides their name. And so just think about that, the lack of writing ability that a lot of our general ed students have. I don't know if it's ability or desire, but either way, people have to be able to write to communicate in this world of ours. And that we've got, middle schoolers, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders who either can't or don't perform in the area of writing with nothing in the way of an essay or even a paragraph is mind-boggling. When you ask them to write a sentence and they write absolutely nothing. So even our students with significant disabilities can write something oftentimes. They can communicate something in writing. And if they can do that, we should encourage them to do so. Even, as simple as writing their name or a few words, being able to communicate in some way in writing is a positive. And certainly community and domestic skills. This is what typical people of an adult age do. And we want our students to be able to exist in the adult world. And so these are the kinds of things that the skills that we want all of our students to leave our schools with. Essentials of fostering friendships. Here are some of the things that we've got to do in order to foster those friendships. We've got to provide regular contact between our students, whether they're general ed and special ed, or whether they're all special ed. We've got to have lots of contact between individuals. We've got to make sure that there are common interests of some sort. Shared information. Reciprocity, opportunity for give and take amongst students so that they can have friendship, sufficient support, and opportunity for making choices. These are the essentials of fostering friendships. So strategies for teaching skills that enhance relationships, because once we've fostered this connection between students, we've got to enable our students to be able to expand the relationship from there. They've got to have some social skills in order to enhance that relationship. Many of our students don't have some of those very basic social skills, such as conversational turn taking. Many of our students with autism or more significant levels of intellectual disabilities do not know how to have that those basics of conversation where you say something and then you wait for your turn, you wait for your conversational partner to speak, and then you return with another remark. So that's something that takes practice. The basics of eye contact, some of those kinds of things that students need. And I'll skip down here. One way that we can teach that is with social stories and talking about the way that this is done in a story form, and then practicing that with our kids. Video modeling is another way we can do it. Sometimes we need to use alternative communication through augmentative or other kinds of communication devices. And then sometimes collateral skills are necessary. So consideration for teaching the academics that we spoke about just a second ago. We've got this debate that rages between curriculum, general curriculum versus functional skills, and it really shouldn't be a debate. It should be the two things being married or melded together. Everybody needs sight words of the basics, of the signs that we have out there, things like that, and then we may shift over into words that are basic to low-level reading. We do want to embed some of those into our instruction and make that a natural part of what we're teaching, so that maybe it doesn't just stand out as in isolation. Assistive technology may be necessary for some students, and we want to integrate that as appropriate. And then, like I said a moment ago, writing at some level is appropriate for everyone. And so we can usually begin that with a name, then some basics as we integrate that into personal experiences and creating stories. And we do want to always utilize universal design for learning kinds of principles so that access is available to everyone. Now let's talk for just a minute about taking instruction into the community. We've talked about this a little bit this semester. I've seen this done in a lot of ways, and I think, very successfully. Our book advises that we keep our numbers, our group numbers, low. And I've seen this done, I think, pretty successfully with larger than 2 or 3 in a group. I've seen it done with as many as 8 to 10 in a group, if you have enough adults spread around and you have a community site that's willing to take and utilize well that many students. In my previous school district, we had a transition group that we had an adult learning center, and we took our young adult students out about 3 days a week. And then they were on campus, I think 2 days a week, but they were out in the community about 3 days a week. And they went to a variety of sites, and they worked in groups of probably 5 to 10 at those locations. They had a day or two a week where they went to Big Lots and they shelved items, they swept up, they did some stocking in the back. And they loved working at Big Lots, and they would be broken up into smaller groups of 2 or 3. And then we had some students that were more able, who would work more independently, some that were less able, that took more supervision, and they would work in smaller groups of 2 or 3. But we would take them all on the school van, and then break them up into these smaller groups. And we had 3 or 4 aides that went along, and it was a very successful outing. We also had some work with Sonic, where they went and stuffed the packets with the salt and pepper and napkin and fork and things like that. They really enjoyed that work as well. We may have taken a smaller group to do that work, but every community instruction site that we had was happy to have our students. The folks in the community were really, really welcoming to our students, and our students loved being in the community. And so this was a highly successful portion of our education for our adult students. We also had a transition specialist who was extremely good at her job and was constantly reaching out to the community. And so I think you've got to have people that are on top of the CBI, that are really looking at that community-based instruction and constantly working with the folks that are in the community and keeping those lines of communication open. But I think it can be done in such a way that it's highly successful, both for the community partners that you're working with and for the students who are involved. Our book tells us that you want to ordinarily keep this with older students, and I think that's probably true. But you do want it to be for the benefit of the students. Our book also says that with those students who are more severe or profound with their disabilities, partial participation is better than non-participation. And I think that's true as well. Instructional plans for targeted skills should be developed beginning with task analysis. You do want to make sure that the tasks that you're working on are meaningful and that students understand the process that you're going through as you approach those tasks. Students with highly significant disabilities or who have acting out behaviors, in our district, those students stayed on campus and we brought tasks to them and had their work brought to the campus. And sometimes they were able to gradually work their way out to working off campus. But some of those students, did not ever leave the campus and their work was brought to them. Some had significant health issues that kept them limited to the campus, and others, had behavioral issues or other kinds of things that impeded them from going out. But I think that, like our book says, partial participation is better than no participation at all. So these are the considerations that that we want to look at this week for planning and preparing our students for interaction with one another, with community instruction, and with our academics, functional versus more pure academic. So any questions this week? Anybody? On anything in the chapters? The assignment coming up, the group assignment, the research paper, anything that's going on?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, so Michelle Guest wrote down the 27th and I have the 25th for the research paper. So which day is it due? Is it due the 25th or 27th? Sounds good too.
Let's see. Let me look at my calendar.
Okay.
If it's due this Sunday, that would be the 25th.
It is
Yeah.
due this Sunday.
Okay, because she
Yeah.
mentioned the 27th.
Yeah, it's due on Sunday.
On the rubric thing that you sent out last week, it says the 26th.
Oh, it does?
Yeah, I've heard 3 dates, so I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you asked for clarification on that.
Mhm.
It is due on Sunday.
Okay.
So unless somebody has an issue with Sunday, I was planning to keep it at Sunday. If anybody desperately needs an extra day, I don't mind extending it a day or so. But I was, planning to keep it with our weekly due dates on Sunday. Anybody desperately need another day or so?
I'm good. Sunday will work for me.
Everybody good with Sunday? Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
I hadn't seen you there when I had my PowerPoint up.
Sorry, I'm a little
Nope.
late getting dinner,
No, you're
but
fine. You're fine. No apology necessary. Angela, are you good with Sunday or do you need more time?
I kind of need more time, but it's possible I can have it by Sunday. I just have a lot going on. I have a lot of assignments with my other class too.
Okay. Well, I'll
Um,
tell you what, I'll be a benefactor. How's that? And I'll give you an extra day.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
I'll bump it to the 26th and give you through Monday. But I'll put an announcement out so that everybody that's, well, everybody's going to watch the webinar, aren't they? Because they want to get my secret word.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll extend the due date to July 26th. I'll go in and change that. And that's just a gift to Angela because we love her so much.
Oh, I
Okay,
love you too.
all
Thank you.
right. So Angela gets an extra day and everybody else gets it too because Angela requested. So then let's see. Let's make I'm just going to ask the last question on our quiz this week. I'm going to ask for a special word out of our PowerPoint. And let's see, Let's do reciprocity. Can y'all spell that?
RECIPRO.
Maybe we should pick an
EITY.
easier word. Because I don't want everybody to spell it wrong and I have to go back in and change it for everybody. Let's pick an easier word. Okay, let's think. What's a word?
Dr.
that we can-
Kevin,
Uh-huh.
I took the quiz already. Did I take last year's quiz?
You took last week's quiz.
No,
Didn't
I
you?
took, this
Oh,
is,
you know what? It was open. It was open accidentally. And there wasn't a special word in there.
I wondered about that when
Did
I
you
went to
do
take
okay?
it.
Did you do
I
okay
made
on it?
it. Yeah, I did
Yeah?
good on it.
Well, then good for
Go me.
you.
Go me.
Well, good.
It's
Okay.
okay. I'll do it again. It's okay.
No, don't do it again. You can't do it again.
Um,
I did notice that, and this is weird because I had turned, it still had last year's webinar in there and the quiz, and I turned off the quiz and the webinar. And then when I went in there today, those were both on.
I watched last year's. It was really informative. I
Was it?
enjoyed, I loved it. It was so good. The video from, I can't remember her name, the transition teacher from Stephenville.
Oh, was she on? See, I didn't even watch it. Was she
Yes.
on there?
Yes, and it was really good. The stuff she said, I was writing it all down. It was
Aw.
really good stuff. And the video she showed, the little clip, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And I normally wait, but I went on ahead and did the quiz because I was trying to give myself a lot of time for the research paper. So
you know what?
that's why.
If you've already taken the quiz, then it's not going to let me add anything.
Okay.
It's okay. But then that just means that all of our girls on tonight, I'm just gonna have to, I'll just go in and add y'all an extra 5, okay? If you're
You
on
can give
tonight,
her the extra 5 since she already took it.
I'm just gonna add y'all an extra 5 in just because you joined us tonight, okay? If you join tonight, you get an extra 5, okay? And if you didn't, and if anybody's watching tonight later and you didn't join live, you don't get anything, okay? Too bad, so sad.
I wanted to tell you, Michelle Guest, her mother-in-law is in the hospital. So she said she really wanted to be here, but her mother-in-law got admitted to the hospital. So
Okay, thank you
we
for
could
letting me
pray
know
for
that.
her. But
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
So Michelle B, Rachel, Natina, Angela, Cindy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you 5 will get some bonus points, okay? Maybe I'll just do
Okay.
3 bonus points this week. What do you think? I don't know. We'll think about it. I'll give y'all some bonus points for being live tonight, okay? And we won't have a special question this week. All right. Because the quiz is already live. And if you want an enriched experience, you can watch last year's webinar, but nobody has to do that. I'll label this one 2021, okay? And we're good. All right. Just one more next week. And and then start planning your groups for your group project. Okay.
Yeah, the stuff that we covered in this PowerPoint that you had, is that the stuff that's going to be on the quiz?
There's some of
Is
that on the
it-
quiz, I think.
Okay.
Cindy will know. She's already taken it. I don't remember exactly. And I
So
didn't pull it up before I
transition-
started tonight.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll sign off then for tonight, girls, okay?
All right.
All right. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
You bet. We'll see you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.